Good morning. This morning we're going to review some of the expressions from week number 1. The part you play was the first chapter in your book, and we're going to review those expressions one more time as a review. So let's look at the first expression from chapter number 1. This is lesson 1 review, the part you play. The first expression from lesson number 1 was, I am going to do something. This is an expression used to describe future plans that are likely to happen. They are probably going to happen. Let's look at some examples. These are new examples that I've put into this PowerPoint. First one, talking about the future using I am going to do something. I am going to play golf this afternoon. Here is another example. I am going to watch the sunset tonight. I am going to join Netflix streaming service soon. So these are examples of things you are going to do in the future that are probably going to happen. Let's look at some more examples. I am going to buy a new car this year. I am going to meet my friend at 3 p.m. I am going on a picnic this weekend. Let's look at some more examples. I'm going to visit my grandparents during vacation. I'm going to study for a test tonight. I'm going to buy a pet this week. Once again, these are activities or things you are going to do in the future that you are fairly sure about and that are probably going to happen. I am going to do something is an expression you can use to talk about things you are going to do in the future that you are fairly sure are going to happen. Let's take a look at another expression. This one will make a question using I am going to or going to. This can easily be done by changing some of the words at the beginning of the sentence. So instead of saying I am going to do something, you can say, are you going to? Are you going to do something? Are you going to do something? This is a question now using going to, changing the beginning of the question, putting in the words are you can ask a question. Are you going to do something? So here are some examples. Are you going to buy a new car this year? Are you going to study for a test tonight? Are you going to buy a cat or a dog soon? Here are some more examples. Are you going to go to the movies today? Are you going to buy a new computer? Are you going to go hiking tomorrow? Let's look at some more examples. Are you going to make your bed soon? Maybe your mother would ask you in the morning, are you going to make your bed soon? And here's another example. Are you going to play soccer tonight? Are you going to cook dinner for us? Maybe these children are making dinner for their parents. Are you going to cook dinner for us? So this expression, how are you going to, or are you going to, do something, is a way to ask a question using going to. Now the next one we're going to look at is how are you going to do something. This is a way to gain information or gain some knowledge about the way that a person is going to do something in the future, the way or the method that they are going to use to do something in the future. Let's look at this. How are you going to is asking someone the way that they are going to do something in the future. For example, how are you going to travel to China? Are you going to take Korean Airlines, or are you going to take Asiana? How are you going to get there? Or here's another example. You might ask your teacher, how are you going to grade the test? Maybe you want to know how the teacher will do this. How are you going to grade the test? Here is another example. How are you going to spend your money? You might ask your friend, what are you going to buy? How are you going to spend the money that you have? What are you going to do with your money? Let's look at some more examples. How are you going to plan the party? What kind of party are you going to plan? What are you going to do at the party? What is the plan for the party? How are you going to plan the party? What is the way that you are going to use to plan the party? Now, let's look at another example. How are you going to organize our trip? In other words, what are you going to do to organize our trip? What will you do? How will you organize the trip? How are you going to choose the winner? Maybe there are different ways to choose a winner, and you have to decide which way you're going to use to choose the winner. So someone can ask you, how are you going to choose the winner for this contest? Let's look at some more. Here's some more examples. How are you going to solve the problem? How are you going to play the game? How are you going to spend your vacation? What are you going to do? What are your plans? What will you do during your vacation? Okay, let's look at the three examples together, the three expressions together. The first one, I am going to do something. The second one, are you going to do something? This is a question that we can make by adding some words to the beginning of the sentence. And the third one, how are you going to do something, is a way to ask someone the method or the way that they are going to use to do something. Okay, let's look at the second part of this PPT. Here is a different expression from the chapter. This is from Listen and Speak, but it's a different expression. I can't wait for something is in your chapter now. We're going to look at some examples. I can't wait to celebrate Christmas, or I can't wait for Christmas to come. Or here's another example. I can't wait to go to the water park this summer. Or here's another example. I can't wait to go bungee jumping in New Zealand. Okay, so these are three different examples. At the next slide. So here's a point that we talked about last time. In Korea, people often say they did something hardly. They mean that they have made a lot of effort to do something. For example, I worked hardly to do something. I worked hardly to do something, but this is not correct if they mean that they made a lot of effort. To use the word hardly correctly when we hear this as an English speaker, we wonder, what are you talking about? You mean you didn't work? You didn't work? You just worked a little bit? That's what we think when you say you worked hardly. But you mean that you made a lot of effort. So this is not using this word correctly. What you want to say is you hardly worked. When you say you worked hardly, we think you mean that you've only worked a little bit. But you want to say that you've worked a lot. So this is not the correct way to use this word. I worked hardly is not making a lot of effort. When we hear this, we think that you mean you've only made a little bit of effort, not a lot of effort. So in English, the word hardly should come before the verb, and it does not mean a lot, it only means a little bit of something. So, if we want to use this word correctly, we should put the word before the verb in the sentence. For example, I hardly worked on this. Now we know that you mean you didn't work on it much. That's what we would think if you said, I hardly worked on this. We think that you didn't work on it very much. You worked very little on this. Here's another example. I hardly slept last night means that you slept very little last night. You didn't sleep a lot. Or, I hardly ate today means you didn't eat very much today. So, an expression that is similar to I can't wait, or I can't wait for something, using the word hardly. Here's the new expression that I want to introduce to you. I can hardly wait for something. It means that you want to see something. You really want to see something. You can't wait to see something, for example, in this expression. It's different from I can't wait. It uses different words. But both of these have similar meanings. I can hardly wait for something, or I can't wait for something. They are both very similar in meaning. For example, I can hardly wait for summer vacation to come. It means you can't wait. You can only wait a little bit. Hardly comes before the verb and means just a little. You cannot wait for summer vacation to come. Here is another example. I can hardly wait to visit the new Starbucks, which is very similar to saying I can't wait to go to the new Starbucks. Here's another example. I can't wait for the next BTS concert. This means you can only wait a little bit for the next concert. You can't wait. It's the same meaning as you can't wait. Another example. I can hardly wait to eat barbecued chicken when I get home. Means you don't want to wait very much. You can't wait. I can hardly wait to eat barbecued chicken when I get home. Here's another example. I can hardly wait to go to sleep because I'm so tired. It means that you can't wait to go to bed. You really are tired and you want to go to sleep. I can hardly wait to go to sleep. Let's take a look at this last expression. This is one about a cell phone. I can hardly wait to buy a new cell phone soon, which is very similar to I can't wait to buy a new cell phone soon. So this expression, I can hardly wait to do something, is very similar to the expression I can't wait to do something. And this is the last expression that we'll look at for today. There's no homework this week. Please just review these expressions, and if you have any questions, please contact me by Kakao or by email, and I'll try to answer your questions. Have a great day. That's all for now, and we'll see you next time.